Dan Rawitz here with your, what is this again? Oh yeah, your daily upcat. Sorry, I'm still not quite right. Your daily recap of the trades we have taken and a market update. And I shaved my beard. I think maybe it was like a Hercules thing, and I'm not the same without it. It's weird. I hate it. I want it back. Okay, let's go. Um, So the options flow, it still has not gotten good in so very long. And it really has been doing a good job of keeping us sort of a little bit ahead of the game. Although yesterday it sure seemed like we were seeing some positive flow starting. But also the NASDAQ was up. And that's been an ongoing trend. So this is about as bad as it could be. This is all options flow throughout the day, and you can see it got darker and darker and darker. Not good. And then we have our dealer hedging. They're still hedging green. If they're hedging green, they're holding red. So this is a really bearish outlook, and I don't know when it was last not bearish. Let's see if this thing will give me a date. Come on. Okay, forget about it. Then we have our GEX. So GEX is also dealer positioning. And what you can see, it just won't go away. This 410 is a beast. And every time we get anywhere near 410, the market has all kinds of absurd reactions. And it happened today. Because look at, this is negative GEX. This goes back to the dealers have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Exposure right in here. And they're trying to cover it. And then we can see there's just a massive amount of expirations today. So that also, I think, as those hit later in the day, it certainly had a factor. So that's kind of real time. And then this is not good. This is, you can see a whole bunch of dark pools, a whole bunch at 412.89. And I can scroll and scroll and scroll. There are just so many DPs here if I go under this section here. And so 412.89, we're going to take a look at that on the chart in a minute. But I also want you to notice the heat score. These numbers are what the computers, the system, the algorithm is seeing these as the most important trades. There's a whole bunch more of these, but the ones with the high heat scores are the one I'm interested in. And you can see it's almost just a sea of red. I mean, you're talking about maybe just a couple of calls in the whole deal. And so it's bearish. You can see here on the 4 hour, you've got to sell. On the 15-minute, you got a strong sell. On a 5-minute, you got a strong sell. On a 1 minute, you got a strong sell. And all of this trend is, again, more red than green. So I don't think this thing is done doing what it's got to do. Now we have our time cycle data that we talk about, and you can see that again, the Dow midterm kind of, this magenta line is going down, and now it appears to me like the long term is beginning to point down. This is a bearish picture. It'd be more bearish if this were pointing down more. The NASDAQ keeps bumping against the top here, but it is at the top. That can't go higher than 100. So that means it has to rattle around up here. Meanwhile, it looks real bullish. It looks like, oh my God, if we could raise the ceiling, it would run. Now S&P is beginning to curl up a little bit, as is the long term. So there is a little bit of a kind of tables are turning feeling here, but also this is a projection here. We also could see, based on the time cycles, going off a cliff before it gets better. So I would be watching that. And the big money guys, they're not helping us at all. They're mostly on the sidelines. You can see yesterday, the big money index yesterday was 52.8. And on Friday, it was 52.4. And on Thursday, it was 53.2. They're not doing anything. It does look like the buying picked up a little bit here. This is the number of buys versus sells. So we had 68 buys and 23 sells. That's better than we've seen in a while. So I'm hoping this plus the options data is going to begin to give us a brighter picture. I'm not quite seeing it right now. I wish I were. Okay, now I lost money today. Not happy about it, but I like to toot my horn and ring my bell, tell you how great we are. This is the first losing day I've had in a long time. My partner Lee made money. For me, it came down to one slightly different decision that he made based and what I made, and I may have made his same decision had timing been much different. But you can see here, actually, I had another spreadsheet. So Lee went 6 wins and 1 loss, and his total gains were, I wish I had that spreadsheet. Hold on one second, okay? Okay, sorry. I did just fill in the numbers because I had the template already here, and I kind of already knew the answers. So I went 1 win, 1 loss. Why so few trades? Well, today's a teaching day. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I teach 4 live classes, and I don't really have much time to trade. And it kind of showed today. And so I lost $18 a contract. Again, if you trade 40 contracts, that's a $720 loss. But as you can see, and I'm not trying to justify it, but yesterday $1,450 won, day before $1,670, day before $840. Day before that, 1,200. Day before that, 600, 1,400. You get the idea. I can take a loss every once in a while. Lee went not 5-1. He went 5-0. He went 5-1. And he's made 45, so he actually did pretty good. He traded 20 contracts, so he made $900. So not too shabby there. Now let's go through the trades. As you know, they're all logged here. Every trade, every time. And we keep a running total of our stats here. Yesterday was one of the weaker days we've had at 77.7% win rate. And what we're still doing, I think pretty well. All right, so I'm going to go over a couple of his trades because he traded so many more, and going over mine will take like 2 seconds. So his first entry was at 710, and this was with the whole group trading with him. And it's about as perfect as it could get. We had the nice drop and chop, and everything just kind of fell in place. And he was able to get in and out on one candle, which is really good. We like when that happens. Next, to me, didn't line up quite as well, but he still took it and he made money. This is just a little off kilter. Actually, I got to change something. The signals aren't quite showing up the way they should. So we're actually kind of running 2 versions of Flight Station right now. Let me get rid of this. Okay. So yeah, this one, he did have the bear signal. You can see that. It just didn't really have a drop and chop. But I think that he felt comfortable enough with the signal, and we were coming off this kind of it broke below this upward trend here, which made it an even better bet. But again, I wasn't there, so I'm not sure what the deal was. I typically want to see a much bigger drop and chop. Then we have, I think this one was his and his alone. And you can see the sell signal came up here. So that's here triggered. Remember, we have to clear the nearest wicks. That's this white line is right below these wicks. And then we're looking for that drop in the chop index. That's it. 1, 2, 3, you're in and you're out in 2 candles. Nice trade. Then I taught a class and really didn't do much of anything, but I did take this trade. So the sell signal came all the way up here, and I'm not exactly sure why I waited so long. I will say, just having this whatever I have right now, taking the meds and all that, I'm not as sharp as I could be. So I can't tell you for sure why I waited so long, but I did. I waited too long because you can see the sell signal came all the way at the top. And so what are we waiting for next? We have to clear the nearest wick, which actually is the candle that triggered the sell signal. So all we had to do is get below here. We did. And then we need a drop in the chop index, and we got it on this candle. And so that made it a really good, safe trade. I suppose I was waiting for a much bigger drop, and I did. I got the biggest drop there was, but it was toward the end of the trade. And I did hold this thing and sold it here for, an okay gain. It wasn't anything to write home about. Held it longer than I normally do, and there's all kinds of reasons I could go through about why, but I'm not going to. Now, the next was a loss. And this is where it gets interesting. So Lee and I both took this trade. We were trading together in the afternoon session. I have a 12:30 class that I have to teach. So getting in this trade was probably not the smartest thing in the world because it was about time for me to go. But you can see the entry was actually, pretty good. Once again, though, the sell signal came all the way up here, and we were just waiting for this drop and chop. And sometimes you do miss a fair amount of the move. It ran down, pulled back up again, ran back down. I had probably at least four opportunities to take a profit down here. It just didn't look like it was done. It looked like it was still going to run down. And then it backed up here. And of course, you're like, I don't think it's going to really be serious here. And for me, the absolute stop loss has to be before it crosses the dot on the way back up. But I really should have closed it right here, and I would have had a tiny baby loss. Instead, I had an 18-cent loss, or $18 per share. That's a very big loss for me. And as you know, it's the difference between making money and not making money today. Lee took the same trade. He didn't have to jump. This is 12:26. I literally had to run, grab my call, and start that class. He wrote it down and closed it here. So let's justify his move, because we call it when you don't get out and you ride it, and you shouldn't be riding it. We call it riding the toad. That came from Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's something I made up a long time ago, and it stuck with our group. So we try to avoid toad rides. There are times we'll take toad rides, and one of them is when you have extreme resistance up top. So in other words, yes, we came here, we didn't sell. As it pulled back up, our losses were mounting. But sadly, I had to exit this thing almost at the very top. I'm not one that does that often. And what made it really painful was, you see all this red bar? These are sellers basically lined up. This tells you that there were a whole bunch of sales that took place here, and there's a whole bunch of selling demand as you hit this level. And so, again, I wasn't in Lee's head. I was in class, but I assumed that he was looking at this big, fat, red bar here, which I would have. Yesterday, I did something similar. I let it come off the bar, and then he wrote it all the way down. So had I stayed as he did, I would have made money today. It would have been a decent day. Still not a big day. So that's that. I think that's everything. So if you have any questions, please reach out. At least you got to see that we do lose money sometimes. Hopefully not very often. It really pissed me off. And I think it was the beard's fault. All right, guys, I'll catch you later. Bye.